I think Darth Maul is happy about all of the Star Wars news. What's up, guys? My name is Rob. Welcome back to Rule of Two Review, and man, it has been a busy couple of days in the world of Star Wars, which is, of course, my favorite world. If you know me, or if you've heard me talk about this on Rule of Two Review at all, Star Wars is my favorite thing. It is my jam. I have it tattooed on my body. I have tons of collectibles and memorabilia. I love all 6 films. I am very excited for the new trilogy. I don't love that Disney is involved with Lucasfilm, but I do still believe in Lucasfilm, and I believe in J.J. Abrams for this new Episode 7 kicking off this new trilogy. I just couldn't be more excited at this point for any of this stuff, you know. And for Star Wars fans, it's a pretty big time because Celebration is happening right now. And unless you've been living under a rock on the moon, you know that the new trailer for Episode 7, The Force Awakens, showed up online yesterday. Now, I do want to make a video discussing that trailer as the gigantic Star Wars fan that I am. However, I can't do that because I have not yet watched the trailer, and I will not watch it until I see it premiere in a movie theater. That's just a very important philosophy that I've been following for a couple of years now. As the advent of trailer reveals, you know, online, coming out on the online, you know, weeks before they would ever show up in a movie theater began, you know, and started to become a thing in the last couple of years, I got less and less into that. So when it comes to movies that are important to me, or movies that are the big spectacle event films, like Star Wars, like Avengers, like, I'm trying to think of something else, like when the Hobbit trailers and stuff were coming out, like those things, I'm not going to watch them online. Batman vs. Superman, that trailer has showed up today. Not interested. I'm going to wait till I see that before Mad Max. Star Wars has to be guaranteed to show up in front of Avengers. I've already got my tickets purchased for that in less than 2 weeks. I can wait to see the most important trailer of our time, the most important thing to me possible that could be happening right now. I can wait to see that the way I feel it's meant to be, the way I know that I will enjoy it, which is going to be on the big screen, you know, with the huge, gigantic, blaring sound system, huge IMAX screen in front of me. That's how I want to see and hear and feel it. And I know I'm just going to burst into tears of happiness and, you know, and unbelief. Is that a word? Unbelief? And the inability to believe what's even happening in front of me. It's going to be pretty fantastic. So long story short, I just haven't seen the trailer, so I can't talk about that yet. What I can talk about, however, is all of the news about the game that you can see running behind me, Star Wars Battlefront 3. Man, it's been a very busy day with all the Star Wars Celebration news, I should say, coming out about The Force Awakens and now Battlefront 3. EA and DICE have been talking about it and showing off quite a bit, apparently, at the convention. They confirmed the release date, November 17th, which is very exciting to know that it's confirmed for this year. Hopefully, it does not slip into next year, as we know certainly could be the case. But right now, we're going to be excited about 2015. Now, there's been a lot of news about this game today. There's been this trailer that's playing behind me revealed online. We know that there's been, you know, 7 to 10 or so minutes revealed to the gaming press at the convention, but that has not been released online, just this 2-minute trailer, which is mostly, like, I know they say it's in-engine, which is just a stupid buzzword that doesn't even get me excited anymore, but it's still like a trailer. It's just a movie. It's basically just a trailer until the very end where we see some gameplay stuff, which is amazing. What the trailer is fantastic and very exciting, but it has nothing to do with the game itself other than it's Star Wars and you're watching Star Wars things. So, okay, we know to expect that. It looks great, but it's just a little movie. So this has been happening. This has been revealed. None of the actual real meat of the gameplay has showed up online yet for us. It'll probably be a little bit before we see that. But there's also been a lot of information about the game. And there's good and bad to this information. And so I'm a little torn. I've been doing a lot of processing of the information today. This is huge for me. Battlefronts 1 and 2, I think, are 2 of the best Star Wars games ever made. And so Battlefront 3, even though it skipped the entire last generation, to have it coming out now for 2 of the 3 current generation consoles and PC right now is certainly super exciting. We're going to get some amazing stuff with what these consoles can give us with this game. However, there are some things that they seem to be doing fantastic with this game, and then there's a couple things that have even, for example, made the previous two games really excellent has been removed from this game, or is being changed for Battlefront 3, I should say. So that's where I'm kind of torn. I've gone from being instantly super excited to really standoffish to really upset about some of the decisions to less upset and more just erring on the side of optimism and being excited for the game, despite my issues. So what am I talking about? I mean, where to start? I think the biggest thing that has got a lot of people upset, I mean, there are a lot of people upset about this right now. There's a lot of people excited too, but, you know, I'm kind of reacting to some of this. My overall feelings, you know, they're already talking about, okay, I'm going to get more specific. So, specific things about the game. They've mentioned that there will be no space battles, and I think that that is a very strange decision. Now, there's a quote that somebody from EA and DICE mentioned where they discussed how there will be some sort of X-Wing kind of TIE Fighter dogfights that will happen in the atmosphere, which is just like in Battlefront 2. And that they've, you know, spoken to Lucasfilm, and Lucasfilm was in support of that, so that's great. But I don't understand how they say no space battles, but then they mention, I mean, atmosphere, I guess, like, I understand that that's not space, but it's going to be like space-esque combat. So depending on how that's implemented and how much of that happens, that actually might be an okay trade. But they kind of make it sound like it really won't be a big part of the game. And I think that that's strange, because that's part of Star Wars. That's part of what was in the previous Battlefront games. I don't really understand why they would feel it's necessary to remove that. They mentioned wanting to focus on the planetary combat and getting that right. I totally agree with that idea, but, I mean, to me it shows that you're less capable of a developer if you can't do both. Why can't you manage both? Especially if you're building off of the precedents that the first two games have already set for you. Like, what are you doing wrong or weirdly that you're not able to accomplish these two things together? So that's a weird thing that is kind of upsetting, and a lot of people are really upset about it. I'm just really, you know, let down by that, disappointed and confused on how they're not able to make this happen. And it makes me wonder if it's a conscious decision for a more nefarious motive, but I'll get into that later. So there's no space battles. There's no prequel era content or lore in this game. And that I have two sides to. That's probably one of the biggest things for me. Because, like I said, I've always been one of the people who, on the internet, is proud to say that I am a prequel fan just like I am an original trilogy fan. I think every Star Wars movie is just as great as the next. They're fantastic. Both trilogies rock. I mean, the original trilogy is probably the more solid for what it did at its time. But they're both revolutionary, and all 6 films are amazing, and they work together fantastically and will feed into this new trilogy very well. And I also say on the internet, because what I think people forget is most people on planet Earth love the trilogy just as much, or the prequel trilogy just as much, or almost as much as the original. But the internet is where all the nerds get together to congregate and spout their shit and get really angry about things. Sometimes get excited about things, sometimes get angry. Hey, I was angry on the internet earlier today about this very topic, so I can understand, but it's all about how you do it. So I haven't ever been afraid to share my love of the prequels just as much as the originals. And when it comes to how the lack of prequel content affects this game, the reason it doesn't bother me is because, okay, like, I love the original trilogy. I mean, it is arguably the better trilogy. So if you want to make a Star Wars game and focus it on one trilogy period of time, okay, I mean, I wouldn't be mad if it was all prequel and no original trilogy. Like, that would be fine too. But the problem that I have with them keeping it out is basically why it seems like they're keeping it out. Because another huge problem that people and myself have had with the news about Battlefront 3 today is also the simple fact that they're already talking about DLC. And, you know, content that's probably going to be releasing day one, because that's how these kinds of companies love to do things. Probably going to be... They mentioned some free DLC that will show up, like, right away, which is cool. I think they're just trying to soften the blow of all the DLC that we know we're going to be bombarded with. You know, who knows, all sorts of kind of stuff. So we're preparing for Star Wars Battlefront 3 to be a DLC machine. And even though it's not surprising at all, it fucking sucks, man. It really sucks. Because, yes, I've talked about DLC a lot, especially lately. I've talked about bad DLC, and I've talked about when DLC is good and is being handled correctly. And I fear that EA will not handle it correctly with Battlefront 3. And here's part of the reason, and this goes back to the prequel thing, is because there was a quote, and I don't have any of this stuff in front of me, I'm sorry, there was a quote that you can find from the same DICE developer who mentions, you know, also how there won't be any prequel-era stuff, and he's like, yeah, you know, the people talk about wanting to go to Mustafar and wanting to go to Naboo, which are locations from the prequels, and we're not going to be doing that right now, but we're considering our expectations for how we'll support the game post-launch. Basically saying all this prequel era stuff that you want, you're not going to get. We're going to wait until you pay extra for it 5 months after the game releases. We're working on it now, and we're already planning to do it, but instead of just including it in the game, we're just going to make that stuff to include additionally later for more money. And there's a lot of problems I have with that. Like I said, if you want to make it all an original trilogy era game, that's fine. Just commit to that and do that. Just make it that. Like, what is wrong with just dedicating yourself to one? The other problem is, if you're going to include prequel era stuff, just include it in the actual game and don't tease us with it or dangle it in front of us and say, oh, it's going to be this mishmash of both eras. The thing is, both Battlefront 1 and 2 were exactly that. They included both eras of gameplay and lore. So now you're segregating it just now. Like, this isn't the first game in this series to do this. So, I mean, there is, again, a precedence that they have a responsibility to deliver upon and respect. That precedence is, if you're going to have both eras represented, just do them together in one game for the $60 price you're going to sell it to us day one. That's how Battlefront has been. You want to change Battlefront a little bit and make it just one or just the other? Okay, but dedicate yourself to that. Believe in it. Like, sink into that vision and don't compromise it by saying, we're going to give you what was previously one game, we're going to make it now one game plus a bunch of extra shit for more money. It's the fact that they're separating it into DLC. Granted, not confirmed, but we all but know it. He all but said that that's what's going to happen. And it's going to happen, and that sucks because to me, that's stuff that if it's going to be there, I want it. So I'm, at the point where I'm getting ready to eat my own words and have to be a product of the system. And I mean, I can't wait to play Battlefront 3, but now it's like I'll have to kind of dive into this DLC stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that I think should have been included. Like, good DLC for this game would have been to make the complete game, which is with both eras represented, and then additional stuff down the road, like new missions, new characters, things like that, many months down the road. Not the stuff that we know you're working on now, and you're waiting to release afterwards for more money. You bastards. And I mean, I say that hesitantly because, again, it's not confirmed, but assuming that it would happen that way, then you guys are bastards, EA. That's how I look at that stuff. But, I don't want to rest too much on the negative stuff because there is still so much to be excited about. The little bit of gameplay that we see at the end of the trailer looks fantastic. I love the visual style. I maintain the fact that we're doing a lot of original trilogy stuff is super exciting. I mean, to be in an X-Wing and fight a TIE fighter and to be on Hoth, and Endor, these are the places they keep mentioning. All these different places, like there's just so, I can't remember what the free DLC is taking us somewhere really awesome. Is it Yavin 4? No, I don't remember. Anyway, these are great. These are places that we want to go. And the reason that I also know that they're sticking to the original trilogy stuff, at least for the initial release, before they give us the fucking prequel stuff later for more money, is because with the new trilogy coming out, the new trilogy is a direct sequel to the original trilogy. We're finishing up episode 6 and going into episode 7. So this is the time to really remind people and get them extra pumped for the original trilogy stuff again. Remind them of that era, because we're following the continuing journey of the characters that made that trilogy what it was. In the film saga, which is most important when it comes to Star Wars, I think people forget that. I don't know why, but I think they do. In the film saga, we're following Luke and Leia and Han and Chewie again, We're going to be seeing those characters again. Those were the stars of the show for the original trilogy. So this serves as a great way to kind of bring us back into the interactive mold of that original trilogy era, the Battle of Yavin era, and get us pumped for, kind of serve as like spoon-feeding us more information leading into the new trilogy in episode 7. It's great. It's perfect timing. I mean, the game, if it stays on schedule, will come out right before episode 7, and I think that that's going to be a really great thing to do, and it's going to get people excited. It's got me excited. I still have issues with, the lack of space battles and how the prequel stuff is being handled. Like I said, if it turns out that they never release prequel stuff for DLC content, I hate to say that I'd be happy about that, because even though I want prequel era stuff, it's like, just don't do that. Just, if anything, I said this online earlier, I'd rather them just make 2 different games, 2 different complete games. You could argue that, paying $60 for 2 games is so much worse than, $10 for prequel DLC. And it's like, monetarily, I see what you're saying. But if we get a complete original trilogy Battlefront 3, and then a complete prequel trilogy Battlefront 4, or Battlefront spin-off, that's still a complete, worthy $60 game, Personally, I would rather have that. I'll give companies $120 for two $60 games that are worth it, but I'm not going to give a company $120 for $60 for one game and then $60 for a bunch of bullshit DLC that isn't good DLC that should have been included in the original game. Anyway, I am so sorry for turning this into so much of a DLC conversation, but it applies to this game because it's just so sad to see a game that would have been so easy to do correctly and make people happy with turn into the money machine and the extra DLC machine. So, granted, a lot of the details about that we don't know, so to be fair, I'm jumping the gun a little bit, and I know that, guys, so, forgive me. I'm going based on the precedents that companies like EA exactly and other third-party companies in the industry today have set for themselves. Like they're training us to be ready for this and to be angry about it before it happens and know we're going to get ripped off and have our wallets screwed, and that just really, for the wrong reasons, I should say, and that just sucks, man. I hate associating that with Star Wars and Battlefront 3. I hate having any reason to not be anything but excited and, completely uncontrollably just like can't wait for this game. Like I hate that I can't feel that way about this, But that being said, I've spent so much time now kind of talking about the negative. Bear in mind that having, settled my feelings about this throughout the day, I definitely am far more excited than I am upset. But these things are issues. And speaking of the issues, I'll get to the very last issue here. We're getting long in the tooth, man. Coming up on 16 minutes, but you know how I roll. So the other thing that I have a huge problem with is the lack of campaign. The lack of any sort of single-player narrative or content or single-player missions or anything, as far as we know. And granted, this is coming basically, quote, though. This is verbatim, no campaign. That is what EA has said. IGN reported it. GameSpot reported it. Everyone is talking about how that is Battlefront 3. There is no campaign in this game. And that sucks, man, because I know multiplayer and online play is so fucking important to gaming nowadays. Like, it's the only thing that anyone wants to put in any video game anymore. And, like, it's okay as, like, a component to a game or even a very large focus. I mean, I love Call of Duty, and I play the campaign, and I play online for that year until the next one, Like, I like a good online component, and Battlefront 3 needs a killer online component. It can even be the main focus, but goddammit, Star Wars, not your Battlefront, EA, not the license that you're borrowing right now from Lucasfilm, but Star Wars as an entity and as something that people love and care about is about the story. That's what the story and the characters, the people in them and their journey. And that is the heart, that is the pulse to Star Wars and what makes this story and these characters great and why it's resonated with humanity for the better part of 40 years. And when you remove that from a game that's as important as like a Battlefront 3, especially when the previous games had single-player elements to them, you are doing a disservice to, I think, the legacy of Battlefront, the brand name that is Battlefront. You are so lucky to have this game that you're making. Yes, you paid to have it, but you're lucky you have it. And I think that you're going to make great gameplay, which is so important. But I feel like to shun the story element of what you could do with Battlefront 3, and even just the fact that a lot of people likes single-player stuff. I want to spend a lot of time offline with Battlefront 3. I would like the option to do so, I should say. And it really sucks that you're not doing that. I just feel like you're so lost and out of touch with what's really going to be important to a game like this, You've got a huge part of it down because you're making this game basically online only, like a game like Titanfall, which I think is stupid. Not the game Titanfall, just the fact that it's only online. Yes, you have that part down, but there's so much more to this. This isn't just your next shooter. This is your first Star Wars game. Don't fuck it up. You have a responsibility to include the right things in this game, and I personally feel, again, this is just me in my opinion, you can disagree and yell at me and think I'm an asshole all you want. You have fun with that. I'm sticking to my guns. I feel like this is doing a disservice to the Battlefront name. And, whoa, that was really weird. I need my little Star Wars screen on in front of me here. There we go. I feel much better. You can't see, but I have a pretty awesome Star Wars thing, so. You're doing a disservice to that, and that just bothers me. So, anyway, that was a good distraction. Maybe that can kind of reel my thoughts in so I can end this video here. Ultimately, I need to end on a positive note because I maintain, you guys, that still the fact that we got information about Battlefront 3, a lot of it is good news. It looked great. I mean, the movie part of the trailer was certainly exciting and fun for just being a little movie. The gameplay snippets we got at the end were amazing. I mean, God, Boba Fett was flipping the fuck around with his flamethrower, killing fools in the air. It was awesome, man. as long as we get good vehicle combat and we get good lightsaber combat, and I want to see the characters. If we're going to stick with the original trilogy stuff, fine. Just give us those characters, man. I want to see Luke. I want to see Han. You know, maybe you can make Leia a badass. Well, the thing is, we see Vader in this trailer, too. I forgot to bring this up. So, I don't know how they're going to make this work timeline-wise. If it's going to be, like, the first Battlefront, time was nebulous. It was just like, the world of Star Wars all exists at once and just go at it and just go fucking nuts. Just going crazy. God, Evolve showed up behind me. Yeah, it's Evolve. Let me get rid of that. Sorry, guys. Yeah, like, you know, story was just not important. It was, or the timeline, I should say, was not important. It was just, here's all Star Wars happening, you know, whether it's Phantom Menace or Empire Strikes Back or all the above. It's all happening together, and so you had all these great characters, and it was really cool. This one, we know it's only original trilogy, so are they going to still try to fit the story, the time that Battlefront 3 specifically is happening at some point during one of the films or between one of the films? Before A New Hope and the Battle of Yavin? Maybe it's after Return of the Jedi and before episodes... Well, it couldn't be, because if we see Vader, it definitely isn't after Return of the Jedi. So, I don't know. We just don't know. We'll have to see how it fits timeline-wise, which means... Obviously, Vader will be a character, Luke will be a character, so we'll have those lightsaber fights. Maybe we get Old Ben. That would be fantastic. I'd love to see him flipping around and kicking ass. I'd love to see Yoda doing his... Even though he was old and, you know, at near and actual death in Empire and Jedi, we could maybe still see him fighting more akin to how he does in the prequels and stuff. So, you know, I want lightsaber fights, man. I want lightsaber duels. I want Boba Fett. I want to play as Han and Lando piloting the Falcon and doing crazy bombing runs and stuff like that. I mean, these are the things that are going to make Battlefront awesome. So I don't want DICE to get too caught up in how they made Battlefield, because the reason you make a Battlefield game is a completely different reason that you make a Star Wars and a Battlefront game. There are different motives behind these games, and provided EA and DICE don't forget that, and I know that they're Star Wars fans, so I'm going to hope that they haven't forgotten that, then they're going to deliver us a pretty awesome game. Yes, they're jacking up the DLC. Yes, they're messing up with the lack of single-player campaign and space battles and stuff, but I still think that there's more than a good chance this game is going to turn out to be amazing. I'm very, very excited. I promise you guys. I was all over the grid on this video, and I know I had my emotions flying all day about this, mostly because maybe I'm just dealing with pent-up frustration over not being able to watch the Force Awakens trailer. I still have another, like, 11 or 12 days or something, and I just can't freaking wait to see it. But, of course, I was able to watch the Battlefront 3 trailer, because it's just a game trailer, and it is an awesome trailer. It's 90% movie that has no impact on anything whatsoever, and 10% really awesome-looking gameplay. So, do I think that the gameplay will look as awesome as that in the final product? That's a conversation I might make another video about, because as we know in the gaming industry today, specifically with third parties, they kind of don't know how to deliver on the promises that they first show us in the reveal trailers. We know that that's been an issue for a long time. And the gameplay looked so good in the Battlefront 3 trailer, the little bit that we saw. Is it possible that they won't be able to deliver on that exact promise? Maybe. I'll consider making a video about that at some point. But for now, I'm going to end this shit. I was all over the place, like I said. Thank you for tuning in, guys. I hope I didn't make you too upset. I know a lot of people got upset on forums and comment boards and on Facebook today with me and some of my friends. People take this shit really personally. So do I. So I understand, man. But there's no reason to get too nasty. I don't want people getting nasty with each other, you know. I mean, this is Star Wars we're talking about here. At the end of the day, even when things aren't perfect, it's still pretty badass to be having new Star Wars happening, both in the film and gaming front. Star Wars almost entirely skipped The Last Generation, which is a crime against humanity. And it looks like that should hopefully be being fixed right now, beginning with Battlefront 3, hopefully this year. So, I think those are my feelings, man. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, guys. Definitely leave your thoughts below. I always want to hear what you have to say about these crazy things. This is semi-controversial. I want to hear from Star Wars fans, man. What do you guys think? How pumped are you for the new films? How pumped are you for Battlefront 3? Discuss it below. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to Rule of Two Review. Again, like, share, and comment. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you guys next time on another video for Rule of Two Review.